So this is an interesting little snip. This is Dr. Gary Fettke, who, if you don't know who he is basically the first guy to get properly targeted by big food and big pharma, mainly big food, for rediscovering the truths about sugar. But he was also obviously very anti-seed oil, and makes an interesting point here about omega-6 fats. So you have a plant-based diet or a standard American diet, your omega-6 consumption is really high, and it's pretty toxic to the body, and you're trying to reduce that and get as much omega-3 in your body as possible, which is what carnivore will do. But people who start carnivore tend to think and want immediate results, and there's always a period of detox, and the amount of toxins you've built up over the decades is going to take time to come out of your body. If you don't have many toxins in your body, then the immediate benefits will be even faster and kick in sooner. But the omega-6 fats is also something that needs consideration. And here he is saying that the half-life of omega-6 fats, by the words of another professor, could actually be 4 years. So if you've been living on junk, and I'm not just talking plants, I'm talking junk food, loads of oils, seed oils in your diet, your omega-6 content could be really, really high. And it could take up to about 4 years for you to properly detox. There we go.
We've got the highest quality cottonseed oil, and the one of the things I spent a long time working out is what's the half-life of these omega-6 oils in our body. Have you looked into that? So Glenn Lawrence is a professor of oil study. He's based in New York. He's written a book I've got somewhere. And he's written a couple of articles on it, which is a bit hard to find. And I actually contacted him. As I said, I'm trying to find out the half-life of an omega-6 fatty acid, the inflammatory ones in the body. In our diet, we need a very small amount of it. We don't need 25% of our fat in our bodies now to be omega-6 linoleic acid. So I wrote to him, and he said, I've written a book, Gary. Dear Gary, I've written a book. You might want to get it. So I got hold of the book, and I read it from cover to cover. And I rang, and then I emailed him back and said, Glenn, can we have a Professor Lawrence, Glenn Lawrence, can we have a chat? Because I've read your book, and you haven't answered my question. And I said, what is the half-life of an omega-6 fatty acid, linoleic acid, in the body? And he said, he doesn't know. This is the professor of oils that spent his entire life. He said he's been trying to work it out. He thinks it's about 4 years. So therefore, if we eat one takeaway meal, which is whatever it's fried up in today, and that's seed oils, then those seed oils are going to hang around for 4 years in your body and have a pro-inflammatory effect for 4 years. Before you get rid of half of them. And that's scary. I've got so many stories now about people who actually changed to a low-carb, keto, carnivore diet, and they improved a lot, but they kept improving for 4 years. I've got permission to tell my story of my sister-in-law who was diagnosed with MS, and she came along on the crazy ride and actually improved her health. And at 4 years, she came off all of her medication and lost all of her symptoms.
Fantastic.
So, everyone wants to have a quick fix, but it's just really interesting. If we've had a diet of, and this has been biopsied in people, whereas 100, 200 years ago, it was probably about 1% omega-6s in the fat in our body. And since 1950s, they've been measuring it. We've been steadily increasing it. And so it's probably mid to high 20s now on the last extrapolated data. And it's even found, they've actually measured in women's breast milk, and they've compared US women's breast milk and compared it to African women's breast milk. And the US women's breast milk has got a higher content of omega-6. So one of my criticisms of the way we eat is that when a baby is born, it's already been raised on an inflammatory milieu of nutrients.
So I'll link the full video below, and I totally recommend you watch this entire interview because there's loads of good stuff in there. But this explains why it can take some people a long time to detox on a carnivore diet. And it's not just that everyone will detox at the same rate. It really depends on things like how much omega-6 fats you've been consuming over the years. And if you've got decades and decades of high omega-6 fat storage going on, it's going to take a lot longer to get rid of that stuff. And as I say, as he says there, the half-life by the people who actually make the industrialized lubricants that are being converted into food, i.e. by renaming it and reusing it and not changing anything else, you may find that it takes a lot longer to detox.